All right, Stay the Heat here on the Speaker Podcast alongside myself and old friend, co-host of the Locked On Heat Podcast, David Ramil. Dave, looking good, brother. What's up, man? How you
Hanging
been?
in there, man. Oh, looking forward to the Heat season. Everything's been great. It's been a short off season, really, between the long finals run and then summer league and the Hall of Fame with Dwayne Wade and everything
Uh
else.
huh.
Just kind of feels like it's been, and of course, some some rumors about a potential trade over the summer. So it hasn't felt like that long of an off season. Although some of the conversations did get a little tiring by the time the actual season started. But I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a great year.
But it feels kind of bad because, the off season, was not the greatest. Obviously they go to the finals. Look, they house money beyond being Milwaukee in the first round. They, New York, beat Boston. Of course, for me was awesome.
Yes.
This is Denver. We get it. And then the offseason happens. And we're supposed to get Dame Lillard, and it doesn't happen. And then they strike on everything. They lose, Gabe Vincent. They lose Max Strus, all that. So the feel good of last year's Cinderella playoff run now bitter by the feels more bitter now by the offseason of really nothing. You know,
Yeah, I know. It's kind of disappointing. I don't feel that way, but I know a
you
lot of
don't.
Heat fans do. No, I don't. I don't. I'm not. I was mildly disappointed that they weren't able to land Dame because I really thought it was going to happen. And everything
Right.
everybody was telling me around the league was that it was a done deal. It was just a matter of when. The day of, even I was hearing from somebody who was well connected. They were like, "Oh, it's just not a matter of when they trade him to, but just a matter of how soon they do it." And then hours later, it was Dame to Milwaukee out of nowhere, right? Seemingly, they moved in
Mm-hmm.
silence. They got it done, and so I was like, "Huh, that really caught me off guard because I was not expecting that from everything I'd heard."
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just assumed that there'd been more conversation between Miami and Portland's front offices, and that was not the case. So you move on, though, man. Like I as soon as that happened, it's like, okay, all right, who's going to get Drew Holiday? Oh, Boston got Drew Holiday. Okay, well, whatever. Now you move forward with the team you got. There's no other choice.
And even Bradley Beal. It's a report came out yesterday about Bradley Beal wanting to come to Miami and this and that, and this things didn't happen. The no trade clause thing, apparently, I
Yep,
don't know if it's true or not, but
it is.
does this
It is.
my
I
question?
was in.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. I
yeah,
was in Heat practice, and the piece from Mark Spears comes out with
yeah.
the diary from Bradley Beal, and right away we get a text from somebody in the front office saying that's BS. It wasn't that at all. It
Oh
was no
shoot!
trade clause. Yeah, so they were really trying to get up from under it really right away, wanting to make sure that the news got out from reporters that it was the no trade clause because they don't
Right,
want it to look bad on the
of
franchise that
course.
Miami was just like dragging their heels. That was the exact terminology that Beal used in his diary, that they're dragging heels. It was not that. It was apparently that they just wanted him to waive the no trade clause because he's going to be making a hell of a lot of money over the next couple of years, and at some point they were at least going to entertain the idea of trading him, and
Right.
he wasn't willing to waive it.
But does the offseason failures feel like it puts a little bit of a spotlight on a disconnect of Pat Riley? Because other than getting Jimmy Butler in 2019, it
Yeah.
feels like for the last everything post LeBron, every whale they could have gotten, that people fans feel like they're entitled to getting, of course, that they strike out on, whether it's Gordon Hayward, whether it's Kevin Durant, whether it's you know LeBron come back, doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Does that does Pat Riley get blamed for that?
I don't think so. I know some people have criticized me of like, oh, too pro front office, but I think those kind of transactions are really difficult to swing. And my explanation is they went all in 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago now, when
Yeah.
they signed Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker. That was their big signing. They were like, we have our superstars in Jimmy and Bam Adebayo. We have our young star in the making in Tyler Hero. We need to supplement them with the right pieces. And that's what Lowry was. Everybody kind of has assumes now that Lowry's washed and they hate Lowry because of the money he's making. But he was the big name free agent of that class,
Yeah.
and he wound up choosing Miami. So to
Right.
say that Pat Riley hasn't gotten it done is incorrect. It's just that unfortunately, Lowry aged sooner than a lot of people, including himself,
Mm-hmm.
expected. This was never the case. Like the whole time frame since Jimmy Butler signed in 2019 has been way off. They were much better in year one, going all the way to the NBA Finals and the Orlando bubble and everything else than they expected to be. That's my feeling. I've never heard this confirmed from anybody on the team side, but they were not expected to be this good that quickly. So they
Right.
kind of put their eggs in the same basket of trying to get that next superstar to complement those guys. They thought it was Giannis. That was off the table almost right away. And then it was just, okay, let's not worry about superstars. Let's build around these guys that we currently have on our roster, which is why they got Lowry and Tucker. Then when that failed, then they went after Durant, maybe kicked the tires of Donovan Mitchell a little bit. And now
Yeah.
this. I hear the talk, but I think Riley gets the conversation. And I mentioned this yesterday on the show. I think if we're going to get any takeaways from what happened with Dame Lillard and Bradley Beal and anybody else, is that they all still wanted to come to Miami. Miami just doesn't have the assets because they're overpaying Lowry, and that's unfortunate. But that's just also the nature of things. Is sometimes you sign guys to contract and they don't provide the kind of requisite value that you would think they would for a deal like that. But they've done their best, and they continue to develop young guys that will turn into really good, serviceable NBA players, at least for Miami. And I think they're still going to be a pretty good team this year.
I hate to say it, so I say I told you, so not necessarily you, but the rest of the fan base. But I said even the day that Kyle Lowry, it wasn't I didn't like Kyle Lowry, is that money. And I knew once you committed 3 years to him and that price tag, you're committed to him. There's no way you can move that contract. Do you think they move him before the deadline this year?
I do not. I think that, one is, what are you going to get in return? And I don't know that there's another $30 million combination of contracts that makes a lot of sense for Miami. I've heard some talk about maybe Detroit and Bojan Bogdanovic and Monty Morris, and that's like a good deal. You get a guard and you get a shooter to kind of supplement the positions of need for Miami's roster. But I don't know why Detroit, does that. I don't know that there's another deal. Everything, tends to shake free at some point. We'll see who the winners and losers of the NBA season are once it actually gets into full swing, and maybe some team that's unexpectedly going to be a seller at the trade deadline. And if that's the case, maybe they'll be willing to take on Lowry's deal. But I think he's also one of 2 point guards on the roster. Drew Smith is not a reliable option either.
Mm-hmm, right.
So you've got Lowry, and basically you're kind of stuck with them. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Miami's offense doesn't really need a point guard. You kind of do. Like, you need somebody to set the table, to get things organized, and Lowry still does that. He looks good in preseason. He's in good shape. I think he's going to be a functional, solid point guard.
So the only other big name right now that's being talked about in trade rumors is obviously James Harden. That saga in Philadelphia. Obviously, we know what's going on with that. We've heard talk about him going to the Clippers, maybe, but that's still on the fringes. Nothing's really been official there yet. Yeah. But we also heard the Heat could be a team that could get involved. I don't know if Miami wants to do it or whatever. People ask me how I feel about James Harden, and would you take on for 1 year? And I've said that depending on the pieces you have to give up for him and what you get back for him, I don't think it'd be the worst idea in the world, depending on the actual transaction. That being said, Dave Ramil, should the team take a chance at James Harden?
I don't think so, man. I can't get past it. One, there's like the style of play, which I hate watching, like him trying to draw fouls at this point in his career. He's going to have some good nights. He's going to have some really bad nights. And that just makes the whole just watching of basketball much more unpleasant than it should be. So I would have a hard time with it. And I also have legitimate concerns too about like what his motivation is going to be. I don't know what motivates James. Like, does he want to join the Clippers because it's LA and he's going to get paid? That seems like the case. Does he really want to compete for a title? Is he really going to embrace like having bad nights and working hard on defense? That's never been who he is.
Yeah.
Is he going to do that all of a sudden in Miami? That seems unlikely. So I don't know that he's the right fit. Like, offensively, pick and roll with Bam, able to space the floor, really good playmaker. He's going to be able to get everybody going. He draws attention. He's going to have gravity to him. Lots of reasons why he would be a good fit offensively, but it's the off the court stuff, the defense, the intangibles that he lacks, or at least I think he lacks,
right,
that make him less than a desirable option to me.
I mean, the positives would be like, well, for starters, he the one thing about him I will say, and he doesn't get enough credit for this, is that he does show up and play basketball games 1 through 82.
Yeah.
So he would be a guy that if you want to rest Jimmy here and there, now you can do that now because you have a guy Harden who can carry the load. Now, obviously, we'll cross our fingers in April when the playoffs start, if he'll show up or not. But yeah, I see it. Again, to me, it depends on the transaction. Like, if you're moving off of a Duncan Robinson contract or moving Kyle Lowry's expiring contract and maybe a first-round pick, say you get back Harden and you bring back PJ Tucker, I say go ahead. It's a 1 year window. And I feel like also, too, with Harden as well, this is a contract year.
Yeah.
He doesn't stop in year. He clearly wants more money. Well, for him to make more money, he's gonna have to show up to games and to actually play well and act like he wants to be here or be in the NBA because I think his career's on the line. I think his career right now as a whole is on the line. I think teams are, and you see it now, are less resistant to take a chance on him because of the antics. He's a good player. We get it. But I don't know. I would, if I'm the Heat, depending on the transaction, take a risk on it. But I totally get the apprehension on your end with that. That being said, is there another whale out there that the Heat could look at in the next 12 to 18 months? What do you think?
There's Joel Embiid, right? That's the big name that everybody's
That's the
talking
next
about.
one, yeah.
I don't know how unhappy he's going to be in Philadelphia because obviously nothing's moved forward in terms of Harden, and they don't know what they're going to get back, and maybe they're still able to get into contention, and maybe that's enough to keep him there. I again have the same concerns with Embiid. I think he's a much better player than Harden is at this point in his career, but the style of play makes it again unwatchable for me. I'm not a fan of Embiid's overall game. I think that's one name, and I think you'd have to give up Bam Adebayo in order to do it. And I don't know that Miami is that willing. And now we've heard talk recently from Pat Riley, who spoke to reporters over the last couple of days, saying this is it. We're entering year 5 of this experiment with Jimmy Butler. We've had some success. We've been to a couple finals, just shy in a couple seasons ago when we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, but no title to speak of. And maybe they start to, you've been around a long time. You know how long the Zoe and Tim Hardaway partnership lasted, and then they were like, oh, okay, well, they're good with Jamal Mashburn, but not good enough to win a title. They traded for Eddie Jones, and Zoe got sick, and of course it didn't work out. But they're willing to make big moves if necessary, and I think this is a make it or break it year. They want to be able to see that they can get to the promised land of an NBA championship, and that's a hell of a challenge for Miami. So they might be looking to acquire the next superstar. Other than Embiid, the other name that I talked about on my show today was Karl Anthony Towns.
It's another one. I'm not a big fan of his personally, but I get it. Would you take him on there?
I think it would work really well.
Think it would work? Okay.
If he's playing next to Bam,
yes,
makes up for so much for his defensive issues. He's that stretch 4 that you've been looking for. He's really good from the perimeter. He can get down low, get to those rebounds, get those easy putbacks. He's got the low post game. He's really talented, and everybody questions the off the court stuff. But if he can buy in, and I think he would be at this point in his career, and if you can acquire him, I just don't think Miami has a shot in the dark of really putting together a realistic package that they'd want. But that's one name. Other than that, I don't know, man. Like Giannis is off the table. Some people are hoping that Dame is pissed off of going to Milwaukee and he's going to request a trade from there. I don't see that. No real whale to speak of. Everybody's finding a way of locking their guys in.
That's the thing. There's a lot of these stars now are locked in for at least next 2 years. I don't see another massive star being even remotely available. So then the Heat are stuck with this. They're stuck with this team pretty much, barring desperation, of course.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like you're committing a lot of money to Tyler, Bam, and Jimmy, and that takes up the most of your salary cap, which is going to go up over the next couple of years. But you got Duncan's contract for a couple more years. That's not so bad anymore as it was the initial value, because now with the salary cap increasing, it seems like a better deal. But you're still locked into that kind of money. You're probably going to lose Caleb Martin this year in free agency. So that's another possibility of him departing and then having to find another place. But, they're going to do what they've always done. They're going to find guys on a scrap heap, as people say, and then kind of develop them into good NBA players. Haywood Highsmith is an up-and-comer. You got Jovic. You've got Jaime Jaquez. They've got young guys with potential there who can continue to build out the rest of the roster. So you're not wrong. They are kind of stuck this way, and they just have to find a way to – if Tyler takes that next leap, let me ask you this. If Tyler can be that next player to take a leap and be like maybe a 25 point per game score or even more and an all-star, is that enough for Miami to win a title?
Win a title, no. Win the East, possibly.
Okay.
Title, no. I just think the teams in the West are much better. I mean, the top level teams, Denver, still better. Phoenix, still better. Lakers, probably still better when healthy. I think you look at I think Milwaukee's probably still better. Yeah. I mean, Boston, if they're, I think first off, if Boston's healthy and all things equal, they're winning the title this year. I think Boston is the team that still has a higher ceiling than Milwaukee in terms of like Tatum take another step added
Yeah.
with the piece they have now. Um, but I think the Heat could at the very least be considered the third team in the discussion for, because right now the idea the narrative now is that it's Milwaukee, it's
Mhm.
Boston. That's it. Door shut. There's no third team. So
As far as legitimate title contention, no, probably not. Like the Philadelphia's good, regardless of what happens with Harden, and
they're
Cleveland looks
good,
like they're
not
going to be
great.
pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not, as far as realistic title winner, probably not, other than Boston or Milwaukee.
What is Tyler Hero's mindset right now? Because obviously, now I heard a thing that Pat Riley said at the presser. I think it was either yesterday or today that
Yeah,
we were never going to get rid of him. I think it's full of
yeah.
shit. Personally, he's full of shit. Whatever. But what is Tyler Hero's mindset? Because from the thing, I've heard since the Dame news, him going to Milwaukee, kind of encouraging actually that he understands the business, he
Oh,
understands
yeah,
that. So I'm actually encouraged with how he sounds,
yep.
and I haven't watched all the preseason games so far, but the stuff I've seen in highlights and whatnot, he's looked good. He
He
looked
does
good.
look good, and I was that was a concern when the Dame talk first started. Was like, you've got to find a way to move Tyler, regardless, even if you're just going to move him for another first round pick or something, because he's going to be so disappointed. And it started building when he got hurt against Milwaukee, and
Yeah.
then they beat Milwaukee, and it's like, did they do it? Because no Tyler was around, and they go all the way to the NBA Finals, and they're like, wow, do they even need Tyler Hero? So you've got that kind of kicking things off. His
Mm-hmm.
name gets included in these trade talks for Dame Lillard, again theoretically. And then it's Dame Lillard. Would you move him for Drew Holiday? Would you have moved him last year for Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell? It gets to wear on you. Like, as much as guys say, "Oh, it's a business" and everything else like that, it
Of course.
upsets you. Like,
Of
he's a
course.
parent. He's a parent of two. He's got his I don't know if they're married. Actually, I think they're just together. The mother of his children
Mm-hmm.
lives here in their new home in Pinecrest. It's a family here, and you would think that he would want to stay here and have some kind of stability. So I was concerned that he was going to be a little upset by the news and the rumors and everything else like that. He's using it as motivation, and he actually looks really, really sharp. And I do think he's poised to take a leap this season, just to kind of show everybody how wrong they were about
Mm-hmm.
how little value he provides as a player. Because I think a lot of the conversations over the offseason were, oh, he's just, he's an okay scorer. He's all right. He doesn't really play defense. He's actually a much better defender than I think people give him credit for. Really good rebounder, and as a scorer, I think he's great, and I think he's going to be even better this year. So I'd like to see his 3-point shooting go back to like close to 40%. And given how good he is off the mid range and off the bounce, I think he has some potential to be, like I said, an all-star level scorer.
So what these young pieces, the
Mm.
Jaquez and all those guys, how do they, from what you've seen so far in the preseason, how do they fit? They fit okay with this team?
Yeah, because it's just a matter of going in there and providing some energy off the bench. I think Jaquez, he's older, obviously a 4-year player at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks like his game is ready to translate immediately to the NBA. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't star in anything, but he does a lot of little things very well. He provides energy, he hustles, he shows on defense, although I think he gets a little out of position sometimes. He can pass, got nice footwork in the low post. He can shoot the ball, although that's not nearly as consistent as I'd like. But he can do a lot of little things. So he's that next guy, other than like a Caleb Martin, who comes
Mm-hmm.
off the bench, and you'll see him push the team in offense, right? Getting them into transition buckets early, pushing the pace, again, doing his work down low, and he'll be a nice scorer. Aside from that, the only other young guy I think who's really going to pop might be Nikola Jovic. Like, I'm a big
He
fan of
has
it.
muscle. Got a lot of muscle on.
He has put on weight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But he's, a really good passer. The 3-point shot is still really inconsistent, unfortunately. And there's the rebounding and defensive concerns. But I think as an offensive player, and I told him this on media day, and I like the comp. He kind of reminds me of like Lamar Odom a little bit, because he's got that 6'10" height. He can
Yeah.
bring the ball up, create off the dribble. He's got nice moves and nice touch around the basket.
Mm-hmm.
And if he can unlock that sort of potential, it'd be such a fun fit. Again, another dynamic weapon to throw there in the offense. You put him alongside Bam Adebayo, and it's pick your poison. Which of the bigs is going to be creating and initiating offense? And that could just really unlock Miami's scoring potential in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. So I like the fit. I don't know how many reps he'll get, though. I don't know what kind of playing time he's going to get in Spo. He's like, he protects his rotation like it's the state secret of all state secrets. So he won't divulge anything. And I think he's got potential, though. So I'd like to see him reach that here in Miami, but I don't know how realistic it is.
Right. So how long do you think? How do you think that the title window is open for this last year? You think, or open at all? You think it's closed? Do you think? What do you think?
I think it's still open. But it just
Yeah.
seems like today I did a season preview for Forbes, and it's like I'm writing this, and so much of what I want to write was basically copy and paste from my season preview last year and the year before that. It's like I've been asking the same questions for a couple seasons now. It's like, oh, does Jimmy Butler, can he do it again? What version of the team is this? We don't really know. Like, they won the East a couple of years ago. They were barely in the play-in tournament last year, and the result has been the same, like a really prolonged playoff run. So it's like, I don't know if 82 games matters when it comes to figuring out this team. Like, they could just flip a switch in a way I don't think I've ever seen in NBA history. It's like, oh, we don't really care, or we do care sometimes, but it doesn't really matter. We care the most when it actually counts in April. And from that point forward, they can pretty much beat anybody. And that's why I still think they have a title window, because I look at what Milwaukee and Boston have done. Great acquisitions on both sides. Can Miami beat them in a 7-game series? Yeah, I really do believe that. And I don't think it's homerism. I think Miami has shown it. They've beaten both teams. Maybe not these versions, but I don't necessarily think that Kristaps Porzingis is going to be that much of a difference maker. He's kind of injury prone. Yeah, I think he's injury prone. I think he's going to be, he's going to be a limitation at some point. And on the Milwaukee side of things, Dame is a fantastic player, but we know what he does defensively, not much. And then I think the other guys on that roster, Middleton, Brook Lopez, they might regress a little bit because they're getting older. They might not necessarily be as good. So Miami just needs a little crack to open up, and they'll just bust their way through it. And as long as they get something to go their way, and I like Jimmy Butler still at this stage in his career to just say, you know what? We're going to go. We're not going to be a top team in the Eastern Conference, but we'll go to Milwaukee or we'll go to Boston, and we'll punch them in the mouth in game one, and then the momentum is on our side. And that's all they need. That's all they needed over the last couple of years.
So that being said, pecking order in the East this year, if you do a prediction, first off, let's start here. Their overall number was 45.5 wins. I went under on that on my predictions. I think they'll pace themselves, just try to get in the playoffs, and then they'll figure it out from there in April. You have them under as well, too?
I do. Yeah, I think it's like 43 and 39, I think is what I have.
Oh, okay. So, pecking order, I guess. In terms of the regular season, Milwaukee's better, obviously. Boston's better, obviously. I don't know where you rank them 1 and 2. You figure it out in a second. Yeah. But where is Miami? What is your order looking at, like in middle of April when we start the playoffs?
They're 6 in the Eastern Conference. Okay. I think they're 6 behind Cleveland, Philadelphia, and New York, as well as Boston and Milwaukee.
Oh, you think Philadelphia and New York are better than them? Will be better this year anyway?
I think they'll win more in the regular season because, again, I don't think it matters. Like, Jimmy's going to get hurt. He's going to miss 20-plus games probably. Who knows what Kyle actually is able to do. Kevin Love, to me, is a huge X factor. And
I think so, too.
If he's good, like, Miami can be really good. If he's bad, Miami can be really bad. So that's unfortunate that it swings on a 35-year-old guy like him, but that's also that's their big free agent acquisition, basically, is re-signing him for a full year and having the hope that he can stretch the floor, make passes, rebound, box out, do all the little things he did last year on occasion. He also got kind of toasted on defense sometimes too.
Well, that's his entire career, pretty much. Honestly, other than that game 7 with the Cavs and Steph Curry, that one little stretch. That's about it.
Yep. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I think they're a 6 seed. I think that's right where they're at in a 6 seed. I think Cleveland's better, obviously, at least regular season wise. New York, I'm kind of weird on. I don't know exactly. Philadelphia, I don't know how to look by the if Harden be here or not. Yep. I don't know. But yeah, I got him 6 seeds as well too. Okay, so that being said, some predictions for the season.
Okay.
The Heat. Well, for Heat first, and then we get to the rest of the league. How's the season end for the Heat? You think? So the
I
sixth
think,
seed.
yeah, I think a 6 seed. And again, they wind up going on a deep playoff run because Jimmy is Jimmy, and they wind up losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Boston Celtics.
Oh, so you have going to East Finals again?
Yep.
That's amazing. I'll take that end of the week. I don't care if we lose to Boston this year. If this team with Milwaukee getting better, Cleveland should be ascending a little bit more, and they still get the East Finals with this team, I'll be stunned. I'll be stunned.
I can't. It can happen. Like, I mean, the pathway is you win just enough in the regular season,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe something clicks if Tyler and Bam take a small incremental leap. You get some nice play from some of the depth on this roster. If Caleb Martin is good, if Kyle's good, like you could potentially be a 4th seed. And that being the case, like
Yeah.
you have home court advantage. You can get past the first round. The second round, maybe you need a little bit of luck with a tweaked ankle or something like that. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that being the case, again, you advance past whatever opponent that might be in the second round. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, there you are again. And you go up against a better team in Boston that might be healthy at the right time. And I don't know that Miami has enough to beat them if they're healthy and playing as well as they did in some spurts during the regular season, the preseason, excuse me. So that's just how I see it shaking out.
Yeah. All right. So you said East Finals, Celtics and Heat. Celtics win that series, obviously, right?
I do.
This
I
time.
think
Okay.
so.
What's your West Finals looking like?
Oh, I kind of vacillate on that one. I thought it was going to be Suns Nuggets, but after tonight, I know it's one game and it's ridiculous, but man, I don't know that anybody's going to really stop them. Like their depth is questionable, but they might get just enough, and it doesn't really matter when their starting 5 is as good as they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to say it's Suns Nuggets, and right now I'd probably lean Nuggets, but I predicted Suns in the recent episode too, so I don't know.
You
It could
did?
go either way. Yeah, I did. I know. It does. It seems shaky already. The season hasn't really started, and I'm going between one or the other. Suns and Nuggets, I think, are going to emerge as 1-2 out of the West.
Well, as we're recording this, the Suns are playing in Golden State second quarter, down by 2, but no big deal. I'm with you on Sun Nuggets though too, but I think Denver's just they have the best starting 5 right now, and the chemistry too, especially. I watched them tonight. I was recording this on a Tuesday night, starting the season. I watched them tonight. I was like, they didn't miss the beat at all. It's like this is the same team. This is the same team I left off watching in June. I'm like, wow, unbelievable. So you got Celtics Nuggets finals. I'm assuming, and I have that too. Also for the record, I had Boston win it. I
think Boston wins it too.
I think Boston wins. I'm wrong.
I know. I get my goose flesh just talking about it. But yeah, I don't. Or 18 for the 10 millionth time. But what happens?
Yeah.
Who knows? The season could always shake out differently. That's who would have predicted Miami going to the finals last year?
Exactly. Not me. That's for damn sure. MVP this year?
I think it's Nikola Jovic. I mean, I know
4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Giannis is going to look good, but he's always going to look good. And then people are going to be like, well, does he look better because of Dame, or how much are they going to be able to separate now that he's playing alongside another top 15, 20 player in the NBA? Like, the thing with Jovic is Jamal Murray's really good and probably underrated, but I don't think people have him in the top 25. And the fact that he's able to carry that team to the levels that he does is what helps him stand out over anybody else.
I had Tatum, actually. I think Tatum finally takes that next step. Finally took that step. I had him. I did play ranking on the show, play rankings a couple weeks ago, and I had number 6. This was a debate I had ending last year, where like I was saying I even texted you a couple times last year during the playoffs that Jason Tatum has top 5 talent. You give Jason Tatum Jimmy Butler's heart, he's the best player in basketball.
Yeah,
in a runaway.
Yeah,
I feel like there's something missing with Tatum, and it's not the talent. That's for damn sure. I think it's just the grit. He doesn't have that.
Gets in his own head. Yeah, sometimes.
I guess
like we did this on our show today.
Yeah,
well, I don't know about that. We did this on our show. Like, who would you rather? And it's like, would you rather have in a 7-game series Jimmy Butler or Jason Tatum? And I think we both picked Jimmy Butler. And like, I'm curious to hear your answer, but like, we've seen what Jimmy can do.
It's weird because we've seen Tatum come up big in a game 7 this last year against Philadelphia in in the second round of playoffs, and he did
Yeah.
get hurt in Game 7 against Miami for the record. He hurt his ankle. You don't think he hurt his ankle? You think a little?
Whatever. Whatever.
I'm about to be a homer here now. Come on now.
No, come on. Like I don't want to hear that from Celtics fans. Like they've been crying about that for months now. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
it. It's like they shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. You know,
No, of course. Of
they
course.
had
I
no
agree.
business being there. Yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Like it counts on that. Like Jimmy was on a bad ankle
That's true.
after he got hurt against the Knicks. So
Knicks in
it's
Game
like
1. Yeah.
yeah, he was a shell of himself, and I think that made a difference. Like if had he been the version we saw against Milwaukee, could they have beat the Nuggets in the finals? I don't know. I
Probably not.
wouldn't.
I don't think so. I just
I
think
don't
Jokic is
know,
also
man.
another level. The Jokic is
Yeah, but so
another
was
level.
Jimmy. I mean,
Yeah.
Jimmy had a 52-point game against Jimmy
I
Butler.
get
Had a
it. I get it.
52-point
I get
game.
it. I get it. I just Denver. That Denver. After the way they beat Phoenix, I knew that team was just destined to win the title. It just felt like a team destiny. Here's a good one. Rookie of the year.
I think it's a pretty almost a lock
Is
at this
it?
point, right?
Is it? With these new rules? I don't think so.
I don't see anybody else like Chet Holmgren, Scoot Henderson. Maybe might have a chance.
I went Scoot. because I don't think Wemby plays 65+ games this year. Not even because he's going to be healthy enough. It's because I think Pop's going to take his time with him. I don't trust Pop to do the right thing.
No, well, I could see that. I mean, that's certainly possible. And they don't want to risk it all this year. And I'm sure Popovich would tell him, look, as much as we want you to win all the hardware in the world, none of that matters if we don't actually compete for the playoffs. And if we aggravate an injury in your first year, we can't have that. So there are concerns. Like he looks really good, obviously.
It's fantastic.
But I think, the size, he looks a little frail sometimes, and I don't know that he's going to be able to play that to that 65 game threshold.
He's 19, right? He's 19.
Yeah.
He'll grow into his body like LeBron did. LeBron was skinny as hell when he first came in the league. Look at LeBron 2003 and LeBron in 2008. It's like a big massive difference.
Yeah, but there's also a difference between 6'7", 6'8", whatever LeBron is,
right, of course.
and
right
7'10", whatever. Wembanyama, like Wembanyama weighs less than I do, and he's like a foot taller. So I mean, that's not good. That
true,
seems like
true.
he's
fair point.
He just seems like he's gonna get beat up a lot. Like he's gonna go up against a guy like Jovic and more physical, smaller guys like Bam Adebayo or something like that. Like how does he match up in that? That's an interesting thing to watch out for over the course of the season.
So are you going Wemby?
Yeah, I think so. Though. I still think I lean to what we've seen so far. If he can manage his rookie season effectively, and if they do a good job of managing his minutes and stuff like that, like the narrative is so strong. I think voters would just be finding themselves getting to mental gymnastics just to be able to give the award to somebody else, and I think they'll want to give it to Wembanyama just because there's so much hype about him.
Of course.
And a lot of it is well earned too.
What about Coach of the Year?
That's a tricky one. Like a lot of good options. In a recent show, I said it was Mark Daigneault out of Oklahoma City. I think it makes the playoff leap with them. They get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the MVP consideration. Chet Holmgren now, he could be another Rookie of the Year candidate, and they've got a pretty decent roster. And he's just he's a good coach, and everybody seems to like playing for him. And he seems to get the most out of his guys. So if he can take them on a deep playoff run and they can win close to 50 games, 45, 50 games, somewhere around there, I think he could certainly be in that conversation.
If he does that, I would say yes. He'd be my runner-up. But I don't have him winning more than 45 this year. So I don't think he'll get it. I'm not surprised. I got Joe Mazzulla. I think the Celtics are going to win 60+ this year. I'm that high. I'm high.
I hear you. I just think that people would say that he's more of a game manager than anything else, and that being the case, it kind of like the same conversations we had with Spo, early on. Like, do enough people outside of Boston see Mazzulla as this like brilliant coach that unlocks his team, or is this just a matter of like, what, they made a really good trade in the offseason for Porzingis and for Holiday, and that seems to be the difference maker? I don't know. Like, I like Mazzulla as a steadying presence, after he took over for Ime Udoka last year. Like he did a lot, but you can't have it both ways. You can't look at all the talent on that team and be like, oh, you've got an MVP in Tatum, you've got all these great all-stars and Porzingis and Holiday and Jaylen Brown, and then it's also Missoula who helps them be the best coach, be the best team in basketball. I don't see it.
To be fair, Coach of the Year is almost like a death wish, though, because we had a guy who won 2 of 3 years and got fired right next year, and Monty
Dwayne
Williams.
Casey, right? Wasn't it
Right,
Dwayne and who else? I
right,
forgot.
and
Nick
Monty
Turner.
Williams.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right, Monty Williams.
And by the
Yeah,
way,
that's right.
the guy that people consider the greatest coach of all time, Phil Jackson, right? He has how many? One.
Well, Spo with none, top
One.
10
None.
coach, right?
There we go. Top 10. He's probably top 5 at this point. So, yeah, I think that's almost like a death wish coach of the year. That's why I said with Missoula. This is why I said that he'll win because they'll win 60-plus games to make it where it's too obvious now. Like, okay, well, got to. If he wins 55 games, 57 games as a 1 seed, yeah, cool. You did that last year, the year before that. Big deal. But winning 60-plus puts you over a threshold like, okay, well, you separate yourself a little bit now. So,
but it's always like the coach that takes the team on the biggest leap. Like, what was a fringe team last year that makes that next deep run into the playoffs or something like that? And that's why
OKC is the only one. But to me, if OKC wins even 48, 49 games, then I see that their coach winning it. I don't think that will happen though. I think they'll win closer to 44 because the West is just too damn good, man.
I don't buy it.
The West, so a lot of question marks in the West in the middle. Like, okay,
yeah,
follow me here real quick. I'm watching the Warriors right now. They look pretty good so far, but I don't think they're a title team right now. Currently constructed. I got to see it first to believe it.
Yeah. I mean, the Chris Paul thing, like he just hasn't been Chris Paul for a long time. Yeah, I don't.
And they're small and they're older.
Yeah. That's usually a terrible recipe for success there. So I don't.
But it will work in the East because of the East is less speed bumps. In the Western Conference, though, where you got the Lakers still pretty good. Obviously, the Nuggets are defending champions. Suns are really, really good. And then you got teams like the Pelicans. If Zion stays healthy, they're a problem. Like we saw last year when Zion was healthy, going late December, they were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Zion was getting MVP chatter, and then he gets hurt. You have teams like OKC making a jump. Sacramento should be pretty good again this year.
Yeah,
I mean Memphis was. Yeah, I think Minnesota's done after this year. I think they're gonna Cat's gonna be gone after this year. I think they implode. Honestly, I'm not big on Minnesota this year whatsoever. There's way too many hurdles in the Western Conference that to trust the Warriors. I have to see it. The Chris Paul thing is weird. Clay didn't extend his contract, which is actually kind of smart because Clay's was up and down last year, especially the playoffs. Not too great. I don't know. There's way too many question marks in the Western Conference. I just know what I know in the Western Conference is that it's Denver, Phoenix, and then maybe the Lakers if they're healthy. That's it.
Yeah, I could see the Lakers. I mean, we're kind of writing off the Clippers because again, we're like waiting on them yet again.
It's what they do. Yeah, it's Kawhi. Yeah, look, if they're healthy in April in time, fine. I buy in.
And if they get Harden, would you like their chances more or less?
Again, depends on what the pieces they give up to get them. Because here's the thing with the Clippers, and this was complicated, and we'll end it here. When healthy, if in a perfect world, if the Clippers are healthy with Kawhi and Paul George and all those guys, they have the best roster in basketball, top to bottom, 1 through 12. I think with healthy guys, but again, they're never healthy because you got Terrence Mann, you got all these other pieces there. A lot of guys that are really good players. Yes, those two guys just can't seem to be healthy at the same time.
I know.
They are frustrating. They're frustrating to watch.
Absolutely. Like, and I mean, to cover, like, you never know what's going to happen. Like, you keep thinking, oh, the other shoe's going to drop and he's going to get healthy, and he never does. And it's like, okay, well, now you kind of have to find a way to move forward, and it never works out. So, they're a team to watch for sure.
But scale 1 to 10, how much are you looking forward to the season in general? Not just the Heat, just in general. The NBA. 1 to 10.
How much am I looking forward to?
Yeah.
Oh, 40. I mean, always.
Dude, I was so happy this morning. I was like, Merry Christmas. It's NBA season time.
Yeah. No, it's always, I mean, I had to watch so many games now to talk about it, but sometimes I just wind up catching myself and go, man, I love watching basketball, and I would do this as much as I possibly could if I didn't have a family and everything else outside of that. Course. But yeah, to the chance to watch basketball. Although I'll be honest with you, the Heat play on Christmas, and I'm really pissed off about it. Like that was
why. Oh, you got to work the game.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I can't look my 5-year-old in the face and be like, sorry, I gotta go watch Jimmy Butler on Christmas Day. He's more important than you are. I can't do it. I don't know how other people do, but I won't.
No, I don't know, man. I know how I do it, man. And I'm really, really excited about it. So I can't. we'll see how it goes. We'll check it in obviously throughout the year on the
Yep.
show. Plug one, unplug. Anyone plug?
No, just tune into Locked On Heat. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, along with this great show. And
Oh, you're on YouTube now.
yes,
Okay,
we
you're on
are.
YouTube. Okay,
You can see, yeah, you can see my beautiful face 5 days a
there you
week
go,
on
man. Look
YouTube.
at that. Dave, good job as always, brother.
Thank you, man. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.